of the key components of any successful life journey is meeting someone along the way who's already traversed a long journey of their own and hearing from them about their struggles, the rough spots, and how they got through it all, the lessons they learned. An elder, if you will, a wise man, a wise woman. That's the case with our next guest. Please join me in welcoming the founder of the Rural Support Program, Shoaib Sultan Khan. So great to have you here today. And I'm the one who gets the privilege of speaking with you in front of this
It's my honor.
wonderful group who have so much to learn from your journey. And in my preparation for our time together, I have learned a lot, reading about this remarkable life story. Someone who began life privileged, the child of a civil servant who chose his own path to do that as well. And then at a critical moment, as happens in most life journeys, meeting someone who changed direction of your life. Tell me about that first mentor and what you learned from him.
Well, Pat, to be very honest, I'm a bit nervous today because two of my daughters are sitting here.
No reason to be nervous. This is going to be fun.
And the ostensible reason they gave me was that they want to come and listen to me. But I suspect that they were attracted more by the safari.
Well, we are eager to listen to you. And I believe your daughters are too. I saw the admiration that they feel for you when they...
You know what's going to happen after I have spoken with you?
No.
There will be a microscopic...
Oh, they will critique
Yes,
your
of course.
conversation. Oh, good.
What I said
well, they'll critique
and what
my
I should have
questions
said.
as well. But that's all right. We can stand up to the critique. So there's so many places we could start with your story and so many ways we could go. But I love that story of, as a young man, a successful civil servant already, a life's path in front of you, you meet someone who tells you about something you hadn't thought about before and these principles that he shared with you. Can you share those with us?
Of course. I mean, the other day, Jacqueline asked me my age. And I said, I'm twice your age. She didn't believe me. But this is the 65th year of my working life. So you can calculate how ancient I am.
I've already admitted to old age.
As Pat pointed out, that my childhood, of course, was fairly comfortable with my grandfather was in the civil service and a senior officer at that time, a deputy commissioner as they were known. So obviously that charmed me and I thought I should. And I competed in the civil service. And my Pakistani friends here would know that what CSP used to be at that time. But in those days, there was East Pakistan and there was West Pakistan, now there's Bangladesh. And as a federal government official, I was assigned to serve 5 years in the Eastern Wing. And while as a young officer, I met this visionary who was also an officer in the Indian Civil Service, which was supposed to be the steel framework of the British Empire. But he had resigned. And when I asked him the reason, he said, the British are very good in administration, in law and order, Pax Britannica. But when there was a crisis, there was the Bengal famine in the 40s. They had nothing to really meet that emergency, how to help the poor. So he said that he resigned from the service in search of. And that's where, after a lot of many years, he got an opportunity when USAID and Ford Foundation set up Pakistan Academies for Rural Development, one at Peshawar and one at Kumilla. And Akhtar Hamid Khan, who has been my mentor and mentor of many of us in Pakistan and Bangladesh, he said that he was just first trying to be a poor, to experience poverty, but he said that that did not really tell him how to help the other poor. And finally he decided, all right, he will teach. But it was that stage that one of his batchmates who had succeeded in ICS and who were now in high positions, he was Chief Secretary of the East Pakistan government. And he called him, and Dr. Hamid Khan tells me, he said that, Akhtar, you are a fool, but you are a good fool. So you are in search of a strategy how to reduce poverty. Now here is your chance. Become the director of this academy and then experiment and do whatever you like. Fortunately for me, I was an assistant commissioner and SDO in a subdivision which was in that district. And he chose my district as the orientation ground for the faculty of the academy. And the faculty of the academy, the Ford Foundation and USAID had sent brand new PhDs, about 5 of them. So that's how I came in contact with him. And then one day he looked at what I was doing and how I was feeling. I mean, we thought that we have got in the highest echelons of administration and we can do whatever we want to do. And he asked me, he said that, what are you trying to do? Do you think that you can be a reformer? Only prophets can be reformers. Don't try to be a reformer. And he said, what do you think, that you can reinvent things? He said, inventions are very rare. And then, if you want to bring about a change and reduce poverty by revolution, that obviously I don't see. Having joined the government, I don't think that you really have seeds of revolution. So then I said, what should I do then? If I want to help these 1 million people who were in that subdivision, most of them poor. And he said, look, learn from the experience of the world. See why those countries which were poor are not poor today. What have they done? He said there is a distillation of the experience of the world spreading almost over 15 to 20 decades. And he used to mention the name of a German, Raiffeisen, who in 1849 was a mayor of a small municipality. But Raiffeisen had a generous heart. He would collect the small peasants, the landless, the poor, and then he would say to them, you are being crushed by 3 giants. And who were these 3 giants in 1849 in Germany? The landlord, the money lender, and the shopkeeper. And he told them that you will never be able to overcome these handicaps individually. So the first thing he demanded of them, that if you agree to organize and identify a leader, an honest and competent leader, then you can go forward. The second principle, he said, was that capital is power. They say money makes the mayor go. He said, if you don't have money, you will never be able to attract capital. So you have to inculcate the discipline of generating capital through savings. Now, this was something very difficult for the poor. They said, well, we have no money. But he said, well, whether you have money or no money, you must have that discipline, whatever you can save. And the third principle that third obligation that he required of them was, he said that God has created everyone with the potential to improve their situation. Even the poorest of you have that potential. And he would quote what Michelangelo used to say when David used to be praised. Michelangelo would say, I have done nothing. David was already in the marble. Simply brought him out from there.
And
now, Akhtar Hamid Khan said that these are the three principles which you have to adopt if you want to reduce poverty.
And those were the principles that you put into place when you chose to leave the civil servant job and go to a community and change the lives of the poor in that community, and to repeat, organize, get a leader, have your own capital, earn your own funds, and also save, and recognize the potential of the poor to solve their own problems.
Well, I tried to do that, Pat, while I was in government. Actually, when I was asked that I should be posted to the Pakistan Academy for Rural Development, Peshawar. And fortunately for me, Akhtar Hamid Khan left the professorship at Michigan State University and came and helped me in developing that. But in government, within 3 years they got tired, and they also started saying that what is this organizing communities? Is he trying to subvert the government or do something? So basically, it was my first big disappointment. And I started searching my pastures new. And the work that I had done at the academy attracted attention. And somehow I just got out of the blue an offer from the UN Center for Regional Development, Nagoya, that I should come and write my experiences. And then, of course, that was the end of my connection with the civil service. Then UNICEF came up and they said, well, we want to have a program in Sri Lanka. Why don't you come and be the social development consultant? But it was in 1982 when I was in Sri Lanka that I was approached by the Aga Khan Foundation, Geneva, that would I be willing to initiate a program in Gilgit-Baltistan and Chitral. So I said, of course, but I say once bitten, twice shy. I said, in Pakistan, they won't allow me to do it. I have been thrown out once, and I don't want to be thrown out again. So they said, no, we will take care of that. So they got me seconded from UNICEF to Aga Khan Foundation. And in my first meeting with His Highness the Aga Khan, I said, Your Highness, why do you want me? I'm not Ismaili. If this program is for Ismailis, that's a sect of Islam, and there were about 30% of them in that area. And he said, no, that's a very, in geopolitical sense, very sensitive area. On one side is China, on the other side is India, there's Afghanistan, and of course there was a small corridor. Beyond that was at that time Soviet Union. He said, no, I don't want islands of prosperity. I want the whole area to develop. And I said, what do you expect from this program? He said, well, there are 1 million people, and if this program can double their income in 10 years, I'll be very happy.
A very audacious goal.
So I said, Your Highness, I don't know whether it will happen or not. But I have a conceptual package which I have learned from, I think, the greatest social scientists that I know. And I think I can try that. So those are the principles that, with that, I went and initiated the Aga Khan Rural Support Program. And the first village I remember, which I visited, as you very rightly pointed out, that the journey of the 1,000 miles starts with the first step. This was a small village called Japunka with about 100 households. That is where I started it. And when I went there, and of course, the elite came and met me, and they said, well, we will tell you what it is and how it is. I said, well, look, unless and until I meet the poor, how would I know what they want and what they do not? So grudgingly, they said, all right, you can come again. I went again, and then all the households were there. They thought that I was coming from one of the richest persons in the world. I would have money bags full of money, many. But when I said to them that, look, I have not come here to listen to your demands. I have not come here to solve your problems. I have come here to tell you a methodology, how you can unleash your potential to really come out of poverty.
And doing that, Shoaib, you were creating a new model for the development contract, the partnership between poor communities
Well, Pat,
and
it was not new, in a sense, as Dr. Hamid Khan used to say, that there is nothing original that he taught me. He used to call himself a copycat. And I was simply copying what had succeeded. And I was simply telling the people that this is a development partnership. And you have to fulfill. There are obligations on both sides. In a contract, there are obligations on two sides. Your obligation is organize leadership, generate capital, and unleash the potential. Now, when you have identified your potential, you have to tell me what are the obstacles in your way, why you are not able to unleash it. And that is where we will come in, and we will.
And you had enormous success, I mean, beyond the goal that the Aga Khan Foundation had set.
Well, fortunately for me, firstly, His Highness had promised me $700,000 every year, and I thought that was a lot of money. But very soon I found that it was not. But fortunately for me, they were, and this is where I think I would like to submit to all the fellows, that demonstration is the best, really, persuasion. Whoever came and saw what was being done in Gilgit-Baltistan and Chitral, the donors and others, they were completely sold. I didn't have to then tell them that what it is and what it is now. When they interacted with the communities and they heard what it was. So, but Aga Khan Foundation, obviously, when there were about 10 donors, they wanted somebody credible to tell them that, yes, their money is being spent properly. And they went to the World Bank. Now, World Bank doesn't really assess projects or programs which they have not funded. But in this case, somehow they were able to persuade. After 5 years, the World Bank evaluation and assessment, they came to the conclusion that the first 4 years of Aga Khan Rural Support Program are the missed 4 years of all World Bank funded rural development programs, because they always went with a blueprint. But here, there was a process approach. People were identifying what their potential is, what they can do, how they can get out of this mess in which they are, and what are the obstacles. So that way, it really became something which attracted attention of others. And after 10 years when they came, they said that in real terms, the income of the million people had more than doubled. Now with that certificate from the World Bank, then everybody thought that this is a program which they should do. SAARC heads of states in 1991 had set up an independent South Asia Commission for Poverty Alleviation. They came to Pakistan also in 1992. And in 1992, another thing had happened in Pakistan, fortunately for me, that the Prime Minister, who is Prime Minister now also, he happened to come to Gilgit and Baltistan and he looked what was happening and then he came back. And the same year I got that Magsaysay Award from the President of Philippines, which was including CNN. Actually, CNN was the one which announced it. So he called me and he said, why can't it be done countrywide? And I said, if the Prime Minister wants, why not? He said, then why don't you come and join my government and then we will do all this. And I submitted very respectfully that Prime Minister, I have been out of government for the last 10 years. And this is not something which governments can do. It is something which needs a completely independent and autonomous support organization. Like a KRSP. KRSP was a joint stock, not-for-profit joint stock company. And he agreed, fortunately. That's how National Rural Support Program was set up. Although he laughed and he said that you are asking me to give you money and not ask you. I said, I'm not saying that don't ask me. I'm simply saying that don't tell me how to use that money.
Now, that was 1992, and you've been doing rural support programs and development based on those same principles ever since, scaling them to more and more millions of people. I'm sure that the fellows in this room and the partners in this room would benefit from knowing the lessons that you learned from all those years of that work. If you could condense it to one or two pieces of advice, what would they be?
I think, Pat, the main thing that really reaffirmed my conviction in all this was that in 1994, this commission about which I spoke to you, the commission came to Pakistan and they recommended to all the South Asian countries that NRSP is the model that they should follow. They should have independent support organizations and give them money. And of course, the governments, I mean, we all know how they act. Although the heads of the state in 1993, Dhaka summit, approved it and endorsed it, but they didn't do a thing. It was the World Bank and UNDP which then picked it up. They came to me and said, will you take it to South Asia? And being a Pakistani, I thought, my God, how am I going to do it in India? And that was really something which was the most pleasant surprise. India was the one which really adopted, the government of India adopted it. And whereas here, in 12 years, I had mobilized 1 million in Gilgit-Baltistan and Chitral. In Andhra Pradesh, in 12 years, 11 million rural women were mobilized.
11 million. Potential unleashed.
That was the main difference between a support between government and something which the government does not look at. Because basically, I mean, sometimes my NGO friends say that you are too close to government. And I always tell them that, look, if you have decided to live in the river, don't pick up quarrel with the crocodile. So if I would, I'm very sort of, basically impressed by right-based NGOs and all those who are working, because somebody had to tell them that, look, this is the sort of thing which we... But you know, when we want to go to scale, I mean, for example, let me be immodest. Now, in India, with these 11 million households, which were really 50 million people there, in 2011, Government of India came up with the National Rural Livelihood Mission Program, putting in $5.1 billion to reach 370 million people. In Pakistan, despite Pakistan government's reluctance, and my Pakistani friends know, we have reached about 40 million population, 7 million households. So basically what I'm saying is that, I mean, if you want to know, I mean, without that mentor, I could have never really achieved what I achieved. And when I look at the fellows, I mean, this is one thing which I want to say to them, that you have a mentor. I don't think you'll be able to find a better mentor than Jacqueline Novotrat. Follow her. I mean, the best compliment that I got was in the 80s when Akhtar Hamid Khan was speaking at Islamabad, and some people asked him, how come that you have such a wonderful program, but it's not going to scale? And he said, look, I'm a teacher. Is it my fault that in 40 years I've found only one disciple, Shoaib Sultan Khan?
Well,
no, Jacqueline has been find many
she
disciples.
found many, many more. And they are here today, and today will be a time they remember in their lives because they heard from you. Thank you for sharing your life's journey.
But one final word, Pat. That,
Yes.
Of course, how I came in contact with Jacqueline. I mean, we were doing this work. There were almost now 8 rural support programs. TRDP is one of those in the Rural Program Center. And RSP, I've got a CEO who is always thinking out of box. So he came up with a proposal to the board to set up a bank. We were doing a big micro credit program, which was very big, but it was informal. So everybody opposed it. They said, no, we are not for profit. We don't want to go to profit. And then this will finish our mandate and everything. Then I said, well, I have got shareholders. There's Acumen. Acumen has agreed to put in money. She has a Midas touch, I think. So very reluctantly they agreed. And RSP has been making money right from the first year. But I keep
Great
on
news.
complaining to Jacqueline. Last time when she was in Karachi, I said, Jacqueline, when at Harvard they wanted online courses, one of the professors called it a disruptive innovation. So now Jacqueline is bent upon bringing disruptive innovation in an RSP.
Yeah.
First is the bank. Now there is another agri company for profit, which they are wanting to set up. Thank you very much, Jacqueline.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.
And I can only suggest that you read all the stories of all the accomplishments. Thank you for joining us today. So many milestones accomplished by Shoaib Sultan Khan. And yesterday when we were talking, he said to me, remember what Leo Tolstoy said, and if you don't mind, Shoaib, I'm going to quote it, that one of his favorite sayings is, the only certain happiness is to live life for others. Thank you, Shoaib Sultan Khan, for living your life for others. We're grateful you were here today.